If you're buying a home in the state of Texas, it's important to know what closing costs are involved and what you can expect to pay as the buyer. So today we're going to meet with Courtney at Capital Title.
Hi, how are you today? It's so good to see you, Courtney. Thanks for having us. Absolutely, come on.
Well, here we are with Courtney at Capital Title. Courtney, I'm so excited for you to walk us through the process today of closing costs.
Same, Lana. Yes, glad to be here with you.
So tell us all about it. So let's pretend like I'm a fifth grader and keep it really basic.
Okay. So what happens through the process is you, the agent, you're going to go out, you're going to find your buyer the perfect home. So from there, you're going to send us the contract. We then will start working it. We will reach out to the buyer, give them instructions on how to send the earnest and option money to us. They'll send the earnest and option money to us. We'll start collecting details on the process and sending out information sheet. We will start contact with their lender. We will order HOA if there's a homeowners association. We order the resale certificate. We will order if they want a home warranty on the property. We will also collect the information for the seller's payoff to pay off their mortgage. And we do a lot of behind the scenes during the transaction, and we do a lot of work. Once all of the work is complete and the lender is ready to close, the lender will send us closing instructions. We will start to work up the closing disclosure, and we will, at that point, once it's final with the lender, we will set the closing date. In Texas, the closing date is the date usually on the contract, if not sooner. And then we get to the closing table, we sign the closing documents. Once both parties have signed, of which in Texas, the buyer and the seller do sign separately, so they do not sign at the same time at the same table. Once they have both signed, then we send the documents back to the lender. They review the documents. They issue us what's called our funding number and funding authorization. And then at that time, we're able to fund the transaction. We're able to pay all parties involved in the transaction and record the documents, which technically means that we are funded and the transaction is complete. Now, on the flip side, if there is not a lender and it is a cash transaction, we still do all the same process, except for we will close the closing on the date of the contract because we are not waiting on lender to send us anything. So we will work up what's called a settlement statement, HUD-1. We will send that to all parties, and then the same process happens, except for we do not wait for a lender's approval. Once all parties have signed and the buyer has sent us their funds, we are funded.
Awesome. Okay, so I have probably a very basic question, but when you say, there's a lot of going on behind the scenes and you're doing a lot of work, does that mean you're checking the property's title for, any liens or problems that could arise to make sure it's clear?
Yes. So when we open what we call title, we are opening title to see if there's any liens, debts, or judgments on the property. We're also opening and we're looking to see who is vested in the property to make sure that we have the correct sellers and we don't have any heirs to the property or if we have a divorce case, we have to make sure what party was awarded the property. We also go through, we call Schedule B documents, and that's going to be any easements, any HOAs, anything that pertains to the property if there is oil and gas, and then also liens, debts, judgments, anything that is filed against that property, we have to make sure is taken care of because we do not need the new owner to get ownership of the property with any of the previous owner's debt. So we get that all clear. That way they are getting a free and clear title policy. So they are basically getting the property with nothing on it and they get to start over free and clear as the new owner. And that's what the title policy helps. And that's what the title company does, is give them a property free and clear.
Okay, so it's really insurance for the buyer, that one-time pay insurance, not like normal insurance where you pay every time.
Correct.
But it's really so they can have peace of mind to know that the property that they're buying is free and clear and they're going to be the sole owners.
That's correct. So title insurance, what that is, it is a one-time fee, like you said. It is negotiated in the contract. So it is paid by either the buyer or the seller, depending on what is negotiated upon the contract. The one-time fee is paid during the closing process, and that issues the buyer an owner's title policy. So if anybody ever comes and knocks on their door and says, hey, I was an heir to this property, but I didn't get paid and you owe me my share of the property. title policy would kick in and take care of it. If they get a letter in the mail that there are past due taxes on the property that weren't paid, title insurance kicks in and title company will take care of it. And there are a ton of different things that could come up, but that's just a few examples what a title policy would do and what it takes care of.
So what do you think is the very most important thing the buyers can do when they come to closing?
So the buyers, when they come to closing, maybe just actually read through their title commitment. When we send those out at the beginning of the process, there's nothing you have to sign or do with it, but it is nice to look at Schedule A to see who the vesting is. And it's also nice to look at Schedule C to see what debts, liens, or judgments that the seller does have listed to make sure that the title company is taking care of it and that after closing, you don't get that letter in the mail or that knock at the door. So, and that's what's also important about having a good agent who knows what they're doing, is they can say, hey, what is this exactly that I'm looking at? Or you as a professional agent, we love working with you because you're very detailed at looking at this information and come to us and say, hey, what is this? You're able to advise your client prior to closing. These are the issues that title is taking care of.
And are there any big mistakes that you ever see a buyer, you're like, oh gosh,
well,
they really should have?
Just a few of the small ones would be, sending funds in time, especially if it's a cash transaction and your funds are coming from a bank that's not local. Make sure to send them in advance, because if your bank is not a bank that you can walk into a branch and set up a wire transfer and it's going to hit immediately or within that same business day, you do know that you have to send it a few days prior to. So go ahead and connect with the title company and see what you need to do for that. That's probably a major one that we see is a delay in funding because the buyer decides the day of closing, oh, I need to send a wire and my bank's not local. So that's important.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Courtney, this has been awesome. I really appreciate your explanations.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're good to be here. Thanks, Anna. You too.
Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions on what you've learned today, please reach out to us. You can also learn more about our team online at livingindffw.com. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.